Before you try to stay positive, understand what you're up against. You are living in an age where fear travels faster than facts. Bad news is amplified. Doubt is contagious. And the average mind is fed a steady diet of crisis before breakfast. If you do nothing intentional, negativity will program you by default. Most people believe positivity is a personality trait. It is not. It is a trained response. It is the result of deliberate mental conditioning repeated until it becomes automatic. The difference between the discouraged man and the determined one is not circumstance. It is control over thought. Let me ask you something personal. When something goes wrong, what is your first internal reaction? Do you immediately imagine worst-case scenarios? Do you rehearse failure before you attempt a solution? That reflex was learned, and what was learned can be unlearned. The world will hand you reasons to doubt yourself every single day. Criticism, comparison, economic uncertainty, the opinions of people who have never built what you are trying to build. If you do not guard your mind, you will begin to see yourself through their limitations. Positivity is not denial, it is discipline. It does not ignore problems, it refuses to let problems dominate imagination. There is a vast difference between acknowledging a challenge and mentally surrendering to it before you act. The average person begins the day consuming negativity, news alerts, social media arguments, complaints from coworkers. By the time they turn toward their own goals, their emotional state has already been hijacked by external noise. If you want to always stay positive, you must reverse that order. You must feed your mind purpose before you feed it headlines. You must define your direction before you absorb the world's confusion. Your mind is not a storage unit. It is a broadcasting station. What you consistently allow in becomes what you project outward in tone, posture, decisions, and results. If you constantly dwell on scarcity, you begin to act from scarcity. Many people secretly attach to negativity because it feels protective. It lowers expectations. It provides excuses. If you expect less, you risk less disappointment. But that protection comes at a terrible cost. It shrinks ambition. Have you ever noticed how negativity drains physical energy? How a single pessimistic conversation can leave you exhausted? That is because negative thought demands constant emotional processing. It keeps the nervous system in a defensive state. Positivity, when genuine, restores energy. It directs attention toward solutions instead of rehearsing threats. It strengthens imagination instead of narrowing it. It preserves momentum when others freeze. There is a law at work here. Repeated thought becomes belief. Belief becomes expectation. Expectation shapes perception. And perception influences opportunity. You do not merely see the world as it is. You see it as you are conditioned to see it. If you rehearse defeat long enough, your mind begins searching for evidence to confirm it. If you rehearse possibility long enough, you begin noticing openings others overlook. This is not magic. It is selective focus guided by belief. To stay positive in a negative world, you must create mental boundaries. You must decide which voices deserve entry into your consciousness and which do not. Not every opinion deserves residence in your mind. Guard your associations carefully. Spend time with people who discuss goals more than gossip. Limit exposure to chronic complainers. Their emotional state will try to recruit you. Misery is persuasive. Control your media intake with intention. Ask yourself, is this information empowering action or merely stimulating fear? There is a difference between staying informed and staying emotionally infected. Your internal dialogue is even more important. How do you speak to yourself when you fail? Do you label yourself incapable, or do you treat failure as feedback? The words you repeat privately become the identity you live publicly. Positivity is strengthened through repetition. When you deliberately affirm strength, visualize achievement, and focus on constructive outcomes, you impress that pattern upon your subconscious mind. Eventually, it begins responding automatically with confidence. This does not eliminate difficulty. It changes your interpretation of it. Instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" you begin asking, "How can this strengthen me?" That shift alone preserves enormous emotional energy. There will be days when negativity feels louder, when setbacks feel personal, when criticism stings. Those are the moments your training matters most. Anyone can be positive when circumstances are pleasant. The true test is adversity. Adversity is not proof that positivity failed. It is proof that you are in motion. Growth attracts resistance. The disciplined mind expects obstacles and meets them with strategy rather than surprise. When you anchor your thoughts to a definite purpose, outside chaos loses influence. A strong goal acts like gravity. It pulls your focus back whenever distractions attempt to scatter it. Positivity also requires gratitude. Not superficial gratitude, but intentional recognition of what remains strong in your life. Gratitude shifts attention from lack to leverage. It reminds you that resources still exist. Energy follows focus. Focus on what is broken, and you feel powerless. Focus on what can be improved, and you feel capable. The circumstances may not change instantly, but your internal state does. Remember this clearly. You cannot control the world's negativity, but you can control your response to it. That response determines whether you operate from fear or from faith in your own capacity. Staying positive is not about smiling through storms. It is about refusing to surrender mental authority. It is about deciding that your thoughts will be chosen, not absorbed. The world will continue presenting reasons to doubt. Economic cycles will fluctuate. People will criticize what they do not understand. None of that must dictate your emotional climate. Your mind belongs to you. Train it, guard it, feed it ideas that strengthen rather than weaken. Rehearse success more than disaster. Speak possibility more than limitation. When you practice this daily, positivity becomes less of a struggle and more of a reflex. You begin to notice that challenges no longer shake you as easily. That uncertainty no longer terrifies you. In a negative world, the positive mind stands out. It becomes a source of stability for others. It attracts opportunity because it radiates readiness instead of fear. The world may remain turbulent, but you do not have to be. The decision is simple, though not easy. Will you allow external noise to shape your inner life? Or will you train your mind so deliberately that negativity finds no permanent home there? Before a man can remain positive in a negative world, he must first understand that he is engaged in a daily contest for control of his own mind. The struggle is not against circumstance, nor against other men, but against influence. Conditions may be unfavorable, yet they cannot dictate thought unless permitted to do so. Negativity spreads without instruction. It requires no discipline to doubt, to complain, or to expect defeat. These habits arise naturally when the mind is left unguarded. Optimism, by contrast, demands intention. It is not a gift of temperament. It is the result of training, repeated until it becomes habit. The mind operates as both a receiving and broadcasting station. Whatever impressions you repeatedly admit become the material you project outward in tone, posture, and action. If fear dominates your intake, hesitation will dominate your output. If confidence dominates your intake, courage will mark your conduct. Repeated thought becomes belief. Belief becomes expectation. Expectation shapes perception. Thus, a man who constantly rehearses loss begins to anticipate it. He notices signs that confirm his anxiety and overlooks signs that contradict it. He unknowingly trains his attention toward limitation. I have observed capable men rehearse defeat before attempting victory. They imagine criticism before presenting ideas. They anticipate scarcity before offering service. By the time opportunity appears, their imagination has already surrendered. This habit consumes years invisibly. 10 years may pass while a man delays bold action because he has rehearsed failure so often that it feels certain. 20 years may fade while he waits for reassurance that never arrives. The loss is not dramatic. It is gradual and persistent. Many men cling to pessimism because it feels protective. If they expect little, they believe they will suffer less disappointment. Yet this false protection carries a heavy price. It diminishes initiative. It weakens imagination. It shrinks ambition until mediocrity feels safe. The disciplined individual recognizes that mental diet shapes destiny. Just as the body reflects nourishment, the mind reflects repeated thought. If you feed it constant fear, it will produce anxious action. If you feed it faith, it will produce constructive effort. Consider how Andrew Carnegie selected his associates with care. He understood that thought is contagious. Had he immersed himself in doubt and complaint, his enterprises would have reflected those conditions. Instead, he cultivated association that reinforced confidence. The beginning of positivity lies in deliberate selection. Before you absorb the world's confusion, establish your own direction. Read your definite chief aim before consulting disturbing reports. Impress upon your mind thoughts of purpose before entertaining opinions of fear. The morning ritual determines the day. If you rise and immediately invite uncertainty into your imagination, your emotional climate will reflect that invitation. If you rise and affirm strength, your conduct will reflect resolve. Say to yourself each morning, I am master of my mental climate. I choose the thoughts I entertain. I dwell upon solutions, not threats. I direct my imagination toward achievement. This affirmation must be accompanied by action. Limit the time spent upon reports that stimulate anxiety without offering constructive guidance. Seek information that empowers action rather than paralyzes it. Two men may encounter the same condition. One sees catastrophe, the other sees opportunity for service. The condition remains unchanged. The interpretation differs. Interpretation determines response. Response shapes result. If you neglect this discipline, the world will decide for you what you shall think. And the world often magnifies fear because fear commands attention. The trained mind resists this influence. It chooses deliberately rather than absorbing passively. The years lost to unguarded thought are seldom recognized until later. A man may look back and wonder why progress was slow. He may blame economy, competition, or circumstance. Rarely does he acknowledge that he permitted doubt to occupy his imagination consistently. To save 10 years of hesitation, claim dominion over your mental diet now. Refuse to rehearse defeat. Refuse to magnify obstacles beyond proportion. Train your mind to seek constructive interpretation. The battle for positivity is fought in quiet moments. It is fought when you choose whether to dwell upon complaint or upon plan. It is fought when you decide whether to repeat discouraging words or words of strength. Say, "My mind is under my command. I reject thoughts that weaken me. I cultivate thoughts that strengthen me. I govern my reactions." This is not denial of difficulty. It is refusal to surrender authority. The disciplined man acknowledges facts but refuses to dramatize them. He sees conditions clearly and then directs his imagination toward improvement. Over time, this discipline becomes natural. Instead of defaulting to pessimism, you default to constructive thought. Instead of rehearsing disaster, you rehearse preparation. Others will observe the difference. They will note that you remain steady when circumstances shift. They will perceive calm where once there might have been agitation. They may attribute it to temperament. In truth, it is training. The war for your mental dominion is continuous. Each day presents new impressions. Each day demands renewed selection. Yet the reward for victory is immense. You preserve emotional energy. You accelerate decision. You shorten recovery from setback. 10 years may be saved by eliminating chronic hesitation. 20 years may be saved by refusing to dwell upon discouragement. 30 years may be reclaimed when optimism fuels consistent action rather than fear interrupting effort. The world may continue presenting reasons to doubt. Economic cycles will fluctuate. Opinions will conflict. None of these forces can control you without consent. Thus, the first step in always remaining positive in a negative world is claiming authority over thought. Guard the gate of your mind. Admit only that which strengthens purpose. Dismiss that which weakens it. Through repetition, this authority becomes habit. Through habit, it becomes character. Through character, it shapes destiny. And in shaping destiny, it saves years that might otherwise have been surrendered to doubt. The war for your mental dominion is yours to win. Claim it daily, and negativity will find no permanent residence within you. After a man claims dominion over what enters his mind, he must learn the second discipline, the habit of constructive interpretation. Circumstances alone do not determine destiny. The meaning you assign to them does. Two men may face identical setbacks. One collapses, the other advances. The difference lies in interpretation. The average mind exaggerates adversity. It enlarges obstacles until they appear insurmountable. It treats temporary defeat as permanent failure. It asks, "Why has this happened to me?" And in doing so deepens discouragement. Such interpretation drains vitality and wastes precious years. Events themselves are neutral. They acquire meaning only when filtered through belief. If your belief is colored by doubt, you will interpret difficulty as proof of inadequacy. If your belief is strengthened by purpose, you will interpret difficulty as instruction. I have stated before that every adversity carries with it the seed of an equivalent advantage. This is not mere comfort, it is a practical law. The man who ceases drilling 3 feet from gold interprets resistance as final. The man who drills 3 feet further interprets resistance as incomplete effort. Consider Henry Ford. When financiers doubted his early ventures, he did not interpret their skepticism as verdict. He interpreted it as obstacle to be overcome. Had he accepted their doubt as destiny, his name would not be known as it is today. Constructive interpretation does not deny the existence of challenge. It refuses to surrender to it. It acknowledges difficulty and then immediately seeks its lesson. Instead of rehearsing disappointment, it searches for correction. How many years are lost because men magnify temporary defeat? A business setback becomes a story repeated endlessly. A criticism becomes an injury nursed privately. Time passes while resentment and regret occupy imagination. Progress stalls, not because opportunity vanished, but because interpretation crippled initiative. The disciplined mind replaces complaint with inquiry. When confronted by adversity, it asks, "What must I learn? What adjustment is required? Where is the hidden advantage?" These questions shift attention from emotion to strategy. Such questioning preserves emotional energy. Negativity exhausts because it demands constant rehearsal of grievance. Constructive interpretation conserves strength because it directs attention toward solution. Energy follows focus. Gratitude strengthens this discipline. When you intentionally recognize what remains intact, your health, your ability, your alliances, you prevent adversity from appearing absolute. Gratitude is not sentimental, it is strategic, it widens perspective. Thomas Edison encountered thousands of unsuccessful experiments. Had he interpreted each as proof of incapacity, invention would have ceased. Instead, he viewed each attempt as elimination of one incorrect method. In that interpretation lay persistence. The man who cultivates constructive interpretation recovers swiftly from setback. While others linger in discouragement, he resumes effort. The time he saves accumulates into advantage. Say to yourself, "I seek the advantage within adversity. I treat failure as instruction. I refuse to magnify obstacles beyond proportion. My interpretation strengthens me." This affirmation must be reinforced by practice. When criticism arrives, examine it calmly. Extract any useful information and discard the rest. When plans falter, revise methods without abandoning purpose. When loss occurs, search for opportunity within it. Over time, this habit becomes automatic. Instead of reacting with alarm, you respond with analysis. Instead of surrendering emotionally, you stabilize intellectually. Others will notice the steadiness. They will observe that you do not collapse under strain. They will perceive resilience where once there might have been complaint. They may describe you as strong. In truth, you have trained your interpretation. Constructive interpretation also influences those around you. Within a mastermind alliance, your steadiness strengthens the group. When one member falters, your perspective restores balance. Harmony depends upon such discipline. Many men lose 10 years dwelling upon what might have been, 20 years replaying old disappointments, 30 years allowing a single setback to define their identity. The disciplined interpreter refuses such waste. He acknowledges error without dwelling upon it. He corrects course and advances. He recognizes that no permanent defeat exists unless accepted as such. Positivity, therefore, is not fragile cheerfulness. It is disciplined reasoning. It is the refusal to surrender mental authority to circumstance. It is the habit of seeking advantage even where others see only loss. Say daily, I interpret events constructively. I discover instruction in adversity. I conserve my energy for solution. My response determines my result. Through repetition, this practice shapes character. Character shapes destiny. Destiny shapes the years ahead. By altering interpretation, you alter the trajectory of your life. The world may continue presenting obstacles. Markets may fluctuate. Opinions may shift. Yet your interpretation remains under your command. In mastering this habit, you preserve momentum. You eliminate long periods of discouragement. You shorten recovery time from setback. You transform adversity into instrument rather than obstacle. Thus, the second discipline in always remaining positive in a negative world is mastery of interpretation. Guard not only what enters your mind, but how you interpret what enters. In doing so, you reclaim years once lost to complaint. You convert difficulty into development, and you demonstrate that positivity is not ignorance of challenge, but command over response. No man can long remain positive if he lives in the constant company of those who rehearse defeat. Thought is contagious. Emotional tone spreads quietly from one mind to another. If you sit daily among men who expect failure, you will feel the gravity of their expectation drawing upon your own ambition. The influence is subtle. It enters through casual conversation, through repeated remarks about scarcity, injustice, and hopelessness, through stories of loss retold until they appear inevitable. Without vigilance, such repetition plants seeds of doubt within your imagination. Habitual complainers rarely intend harm, yet their continual rehearsal of grievance drains initiative from those who listen. They magnify obstacles and minimize opportunity. They find comfort in shared discouragement. To remain in such climate is to invite erosion of confidence. Observe carefully how conversation shapes belief. When men gather to discuss plans, service, and advancement, enthusiasm rises. When they gather to exchange complaints, energy falls. Words carry vibration. Repeated words establish atmosphere. The disciplined individual chooses his associations deliberately. He does not condemn the negative. He limits exposure to them. He seeks companions who discuss definite aims, who analyze obstacles constructively, who pursue improvement rather than gossip. Andrew Carnegie understood this law well. His mastermind alliances were formed not merely of capable men, but of men united in harmonious purpose. Such harmony protected the group from corrosive doubt. Within such alliance, confidence multiplies. Each member strengthens the other. When one falters, another restores conviction. Collective optimism becomes shield against external negativity. Guard also the reports and commentary you absorb. There is a difference between staying informed and staying infected. Information that equips you for action strengthens. Information that merely stimulates fear weakens. Ask yourself frequently, does this conversation elevate my ambition or diminish it? Does this report clarify opportunity or magnify threat without remedy? Selection determines mental climate. Environment shapes belief quietly but steadily. A man immersed in scarcity talk begins to anticipate scarcity. A man immersed in opportunity talk begins to anticipate opportunity. Expectation influences perception. When you alter your associations, others will notice change in you. Your speech becomes less reactive and more deliberate. Your posture steadies. Your outlook brightens. Those who prefer complaint may feel uncomfortable around your constructive tone. Such discomfort is natural. You are altering the climate of your own mind. Not all will accompany you. Some will attempt to draw you back into familiar negativity. Stand firm without hostility. Say to yourself, I associate with minds that strengthen my purpose. I limit voices that weaken my resolve. I dwell among those who speak of plans, not grievances. Through repetition, this choice becomes instinctive. You will find yourself gravitating toward constructive minds and withdrawing from corrosive influence. The shift may be gradual, yet its effect will be profound. 10 years may be saved by escaping the gravity of chronic doubt. 20 years may be saved by entering alliance with constructive thinkers. 30 years may be preserved by building a circle that reinforces ambition rather than restrains it. Within positive association, confidence compounds. Plans receive encouragement. Effort gains reinforcement. Adversity is analyzed rather than dramatized. The collective tone strengthens individual resilience. Consider how leaders such as Henry Ford and Thomas Edison surrounded themselves with capable allies. They did not isolate themselves among pessimists. They cultivated environments aligned with vision. The disciplined mind recognizes that companionship influences destiny. To remain positive in a negative world, you must create an atmosphere supportive of optimism. That atmosphere begins with deliberate association. Affirm daily, my associations strengthen me, my companions encourage progress, my environment supports my chief aim. The world beyond your circle may remain turbulent. Reports may continue to magnify crisis, yet within your chosen environment, steadiness prevails. By guarding association, you protect your mental dominion, you preserve energy, you accelerate growth, you prevent erosion of belief. This discipline is not selfish, it is strategic. When you strengthen yourself through constructive companionship, you become capable of strengthening others. Thus, the third principle in always remaining positive in a negative world is this: choose your climate deliberately. Surround yourself with minds that uplift. Limit influence that corrodes. Through this choice, you secure a foundation upon which lasting optimism may stand. A mind without a definite aim is like a ship without anchor in restless waters. Every wave influences its direction. Every gust alters its course. In a world filled with doubt and distraction, the undefined mind is easily disturbed. It reacts instead of directs. It absorbs instead of commands. The man who would always remain positive must fasten his thought to a definite purpose so strong that outside confusion cannot uproot it. A commanding aim acts as gravity. It pulls wandering thought back into order. It steadies emotion when circumstances fluctuate. Without purpose, comparison becomes poison. The undefined mind measures itself constantly against others. It feels threatened by another man's success. It becomes discouraged by temporary disadvantage. Purpose eliminates such waste. When your destination is clear, comparison loses importance. Write your chief aim in precise terms. State what you intend to achieve. State what you will render in return. Fix a date. Read it morning and night. Let it be the first impression upon your mind each day and the final impression before rest. This practice strengthens stability. When criticism arrives, measure it against your aim. If it assists improvement, accept it. If it distracts from purpose, dismiss it. When uncertainty appears, ask whether it truly obstructs your path or merely tests your persistence. Consider Thomas Edison. Thousands of experiments yielded no immediate success, yet his purpose remained fixed. That fixed intention protected his optimism. He did not view each failure as collapse, but as progress toward mastery. Henry Ford endured skepticism during his early attempts. Had his purpose been vague, criticism might have altered his course. Instead, his mission anchored him. The ridicule of others could not outweigh his conviction. Purpose strengthens persistence. When your objective is definite, temporary defeat does not appear final. It appears instructional. Persistence protects positivity by preventing prolonged discouragement. Imagination plays an essential role in reinforcing this anchor. See your aim as already attained. Picture the service you will render. Visualize the influence you will hold. Emotionalize the vision until it feels real. This impression upon the subconscious mind sustains confidence. An undefined life wastes years wandering among minor aims. 10 years may pass in restless experimentation. 20 years may be lost in chasing opportunity without direction. 30 years may vanish before a man realizes he has never decided what he truly seeks. The disciplined individual decides early. He fixes intention and refuses to scatter his energy. His optimism does not depend upon daily events. It rests upon long-term purpose. Others perceive this steadiness. They sense that he is not easily swayed. His speech reveals conviction. His conduct reveals consistency. Opportunity gravitates toward such stability. When adversity strikes, the man with purpose recovers quickly. He remembers his aim and resumes effort. The man without purpose dwells upon setback because he lacks destination to return to. Say daily, "My purpose anchors my mind. I am not shaken by passing events. I persist until I succeed. My aim governs my thought. Through repetition, this affirmation becomes belief. Belief strengthens action. Action produces progress. Progress reinforces optimism. A definite purpose also guards against emotional contagion. When others speak of failure, you recall your objective. When markets fluctuate, you remain directed. When comparison tempts discouragement, you measure only against your own progress. The world may present constant turbulence. Economic cycles may rise and fall. Public opinion may change. Yet your chief aim remains constant. It is the central pillar around which thought organizes. Positivity grounded in purpose is not fragile cheerfulness. It is disciplined conviction. It acknowledges obstacles, yet refuses to surrender direction. Years saved through this anchor cannot be overstated. Time once lost to indecision becomes invested in steady advancement. Energy once wasted on comparison becomes focused upon construction. The man anchored to purpose radiates confidence. His posture is firm, his decisions prompt, his persistence steady. Others rely upon him because he relies upon himself. Thus, the fourth principle in always remaining positive in a negative world is the establishment of an unwavering chief aim. Without it, optimism fluctuates. With it, optimism stabilizes. Affirm, my life is governed by definite purpose. My thoughts return to it daily. My persistence strengthens my belief. External confusion does not alter my direction. Through this anchor, you become master of your mental climate. You shorten the road to achievement. You preserve decades from wandering. The world may remain uncertain, but your direction need not. When your aim is clear, your mind remains steady. And in that steadiness lies the power to remain positive regardless of external conditions. When a man has learned to guard his thoughts, interpret adversity constructively, choose his associations wisely, and anchor himself to a definite purpose, a change becomes visible not only to himself, but to others. He appears steady where others are shaken. He appears deliberate where others are confused. This steadiness is not accidental, it is cultivated. The world instinctively trusts stability. Employers entrust greater responsibility to the man who remains calm during difficulty. Associates seek counsel from the one who does not magnify rumor. Clients prefer the individual whose tone suggests assurance rather than alarm. Thus, positivity becomes practical advantage. Many imagine that optimism is mere temperament. In truth, it is disciplined faith. Faith practiced daily becomes expectation. Expectation influences action. Action repeated builds reputation. Reputation attracts opportunity. Observe leaders in industry and public life. The ones who endure are those who do not crumble under criticism. They listen, evaluate, and proceed. Their composure signals inner authority. Their confidence reassures followers. Such qualities are born of trained thought. A positive mind also preserves physical vitality. Negativity taxes the nerves. It stimulates constant emotional defense. The body grows weary from rehearsed fear. Constructive thinking restores energy because it directs effort towards solution rather than anxiety. Energy preserved becomes power applied. When you do not exhaust yourself with needless worry, you retain strength for productive action. Over years, this conservation compounds. 10 years may be saved when you eliminate chronic hesitation. 20 years may be saved when you recover swiftly from disappointment. 30 years may be preserved when you refuse to abandon your aim at the first obstacle. Consider how many capable men have lived in quiet frustration because they allowed external noise to dictate internal climate. They began projects with enthusiasm only to be discouraged by rumor. They revised plans repeatedly because of opinion. Their energy leaked through doubt. Contrast them with those who trained themselves to respond deliberately. When adversity arose, they adjusted methods but preserved conviction. When criticism arrived, they filtered it through purpose. When uncertainty appeared, they relied upon preparation rather than panic. Service strengthens this positive state. When you focus upon rendering useful service, you shift attention from personal anxiety to contribution. Service expands perspective. It reminds you that your effort benefits others. Andrew Carnegie built alliances not merely for profit, but for production. His constructive tone encouraged cooperation. Confidence within the group strengthened enterprise. The man who always remains positive becomes a stabilizing influence. In times of economic fluctuation or public alarm, others look to him. They measure their own reactions against his composure. Such influence is not imposed, it is earned. It arises from repeated acts of mental discipline. Each time you choose faith over fear, you strengthen your authority. Each time you respond constructively, you reinforce reputation. Gradually, positivity becomes reflex. Instead of forcing optimism, you naturally search for solution. Instead of rehearsing disaster, you rehearse preparation. Instead of dwelling upon complaint, you advance plan. This transformation alters destiny. The reactive man is carried by circumstance. The directive man shapes circumstance. The reactive man consumes years in emotional turbulence. The directive man invests years in deliberate construction. Say daily, I govern my mental climate. I respond with faith and purpose. I preserve my energy for constructive action. I am steady in uncertain times. Through repetition, this declaration becomes conviction. Conviction becomes character. Character becomes destiny. The saving of years through positivity cannot be measured merely in calendar time. It appears in momentum preserved, in opportunities seized rather than feared, in relationships strengthened rather than strained. You will notice that setbacks no longer immobilize you. Criticism no longer defines you. Economic shifts no longer terrify you. You assess, adjust, and advance. Others will describe you as resilient, as composed, as confident. They may not understand the training behind your steadiness, yet they will respond to its presence. The world may remain negative in tone. Reports may magnify crisis. Opinions may conflict. Yet you will remain governed by your chosen thoughts. Positivity is not naive denial. It is disciplined command. It does not ignore storms. It navigates through them. It does not pretend difficulty is absent. It refuses to surrender to it. When practiced consistently, positivity becomes part of identity. You no longer struggle to maintain it. It becomes your habitual response. Affirm finally, my mind belongs to me. I choose faith. I choose constructive thought. I choose purpose over panic. My trained response shortens the road to achievement. Thus, you fulfill the promise to remain positive in a negative world, not by accident, but by design. You save 10 years by eliminating habitual doubt. You save 20 by refusing to dwell upon adversity. You may save 30 by building steady momentum rather than rebuilding after collapse. In mastering your response, you master your time. In mastering your time, you master your life. And in mastering your life, you become proof that positivity is not fragile optimism, but enduring power under disciplined control.